Come and dream with me.
Hello and welcome to What Do You Want to Watch, the Explosion Network's premier media podcast. Every fortnight we get together to talk about TV, movies and online content and help you answer the question, how many cinemas did Midsummer open in this past weekend?
Two that I know of in New South Wales. One in Byron Bay and one in Sydney.
The correct answer in Australia is 17.
Not one of them's fucking near me.
No, it's it did not open anywhere except public capital cities, pretty much. Only, as far as I can tell, there was only two big chains that showed it, and they're only in like one location in each city.
Yeah,
so,
Event
showed.
I know it's only in Sydney, and I think it was an independent one in Byron Bay when I looked at it.
Yeah, there was as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Which is, I don't understand it, because Hereditary was such a big movie. Like, you think people would be clamoring to see it. But,
yeah, Hereditary braked in $2.6 million in Australia across 7 weeks, which isn't terrible, averaging about 3,000 per cinema, I think. So the box office came in for this past weekend in Australia. Midsummer came in at number 10 with $185,000 across those 17 theaters, which averages out to be about $10,000, almost $11,000 per cinema. I mean, which is
there's whole regions,
which is like blockbuster level movie, like numbers. So I'm not sure what they're looking to do this week is, but hopefully it's releasing a few more places. I would imagine if they're smart. I think there is. I've seen a lot of clamoring for this film across. The thing is,
now they've got Once Upon a Time in Hollywood coming out this week to contend with now.
Yeah, so another film that's going to be taking up a lot of screens. I feel like it's probably going to be less
I think they've
screens than more.
Yeah,
I would make time for it, obviously, but if I want to watch it, I have to drive 2 and a bit hours for a 2.5 hour movie, and you know that's a big commitment. That's a whole day to go watch.
That's
one
a 5 hour round trip.
I mean? Exactly. So I mean, I don't know if I'll actually get to it, because I thought about it this week. I'm like, I got this thing to do, this day, this thing to do. Oh, fuck, the one day I could do it. I'm like, do I want to spend 5 hours in the car driving? Especially like the type of movie it is. Do I want to spend 2 hours alone in the car after I've watched that? Like, do I want to be there? No, maybe not. So yeah.
Yeah. I will say that Midsummer did make a lot less money than Hereditary did over in the States, which I suspect is a contributing factor. And also it doesn't look like a standard horror movie, which would I imagine Midsummer is pretty difficult to market. It's not as simple to market as a Hereditary.
I don't know. Hereditary would have been pretty hard to market as well, I found.
I don't know. It was just dark and scary looking with creepy imagery.
Hereditary, they had a whole Mother's Day trailer and everything for it.
I guess so.
Yeah. Probably timing as well. I think Hereditary came out earlier in the year.
Yeah, it's definitely coming out late here.
Yeah. So we got. I've got to introduce everybody. I'm your host, Ashley Hobley. Joining me this episode is Dylan Blight.
Hello, I'm one of your midsummerless co-hosts.
And Nicholas Pryor.
Hi.
Great. We've got to cover. We're going to be talking about everything in our watch history. We'll just cover in the latest news. And then we'll be talking about the TV show that we watched this week, Banshee.
Oh.
That's right. It's the TV show we ended up watching this week.
You threw me off there with TV show.
Yep, I didn't word it greatly. But yes. Let's jump into some of the things we've been watching. Top of the list, the latest in the Fast and Furious franchise, Hobbs and Shaw. Box office winner. Dylan, you're a huge Fast and Furious fan? How do you feel about this latest spin-off entry?
He looks regular size to me.
I thought that was a question at first. It was like, Dylan, you're a huge Fast and Furious fan? Question mark.
Question mark? Yeah.
Yeah, because no one's. It's not believable that anybody is.
Well, I mean, if you've been on my Twitter or followed anything I've done, I'm pretty sure I've got proof. I wasn't the biggest fan of this one, and I gave it a 6 on explosionnetwork.com. Waiting to review up for it. It's like, and the easiest way I find to describe it is that every scene from the previous 2, basically, where you've got The Rock and Jason Statham kind of arguing and bittering with each other, but they're usually like a 5-minute scene, and it kind of works within the context of everything else that's happening. You're like, yes, very good, whatever. That's the entire movie. The movie is literally paced out as having the two of those people back forth, like argue, bitter, like try and out macho one another. Action scene. Trying out macho one another, jokes about how big The Rock can't fit into his shirts, jokes about how Jason Statham's so small and they could beat each other up, blah, blah, blah. Action scene. And spoiler alert, not spoiler alert, they have to overcome their differences to be able to take down the bad guy together by the end. It's like Tango and Cash, I guess, or whatever you want to put it that way, except for with a bit of a hardcore sci-fi spin. And if you thought the previous Fast and Furious movie was a bit sci-fi-ish with like the viruses or whatever, the take over cars mechanically somehow, whatever, this one's complete sci-fi utter nonsense with Idris Elba literally basically a fucking robot. It lacks the car. It lacks the cars. It tries to have like one car chase scene. It's like, yeah, we're Fast and Furious, but doesn't have any of that. And I think
there's
if
2
you're a fan,
car sequences.
It's not Fast and Furious car sequences though. They're just general kind of car sequences. And also, as for people who aren't fans of this franchise, maybe this sounds corny, but for anyone who likes these movies, it actually does lack the family element. You dearly miss those bunch of characters that we watch these movies for. The reason I watch these movies is actually for that core cast of characters, and I think they work really well together, and I really enjoy seeing their banter and back forth and how they work together, and they're a really well-oiled unit, and they make me happy to just see them joke around and whatever else and have action scenes and play off one another and so forth and whatever else. This one, it lacks what makes a Fast and Furious movie to me, but if you want to look at it as its own movie, it's a just average action comedy with The Rock as a lead, like pretty much all of his movies these days. So if you like those, sure.
Yeah, I didn't love this one either.
I was waiting for you to tell me you loved it. I was like, here we go.
It's kind of ironic because I hate Fast and Furious, and the trailer actually made me kind of want to go see it.
If you've seen the trailer, you've seen the movie.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that it's not about family, because it is about family. It just doesn't feel like it's about family.
It's not about the right family.
Because there's so much... they shove so much family in that you don't care about, unfortunately.
No.
I mean, The Rock is charismatic. There's some cameos that have come out after that were... One of them got spoiled for me, so I knew it was coming, but the other one was a bit of a surprise. But
I had neither spoiled, but we can plug here. If you want to go hear us talk about the cameos, youtube.com/Explosion Network, we are doing a spoiler review discussion, which will be live by the time you're listening to this. So cameo talk over there. Anyway, continue.
Yep. But yeah, just felt like they were trying to outdo each other the entire movie, which got tiresome after a while.
So tiresome.
I mean, Vanessa Kirby, she was fun.
She's great. She's fucking great. The only reason to watch this movie, IMO, is for Vanessa Kirby, who, if you don't know, she was in the last Mission Impossible movie, and she's also in The Crown. Although I think the Mission Impossible movie is kind of a bit more relatable to this because it's like more of an action franchise, and in The Crown she's like playing a fucking princess or whatever. But she steals the show from The Rock, in my opinion. She has more character, charisma, and carries this movie for what it is. The only reason I would rewatch this movie is for her.
The Rock feels like he's phoning it in and just playing himself the entire film.
He doesn't feel like he's playing Hobbs anymore, is my thing as well.
I think, they've been melded together so much.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a cheat meal, which feels very much like his Instagram constantly.
So The Rock's playing The Rock.
Monthly cheat meal.
But think back on the first movie he was in. He was big. He was tough. He was like, a sucker. Like he had a certain side persona. And now in this, I'm like, this is just literally The Rock in any other rock movie.
Yeah.
It's not even saying. And Jason Statham's just Jason Statham, and that's whatever. But yeah, and even the other disappointing thing is you can't even be like, well, the action scenes are good though, because they're not. None of them stood out to me. They're just perfectly paint by numbers action scenes. So, even the mainline Fast and Furious movies at least have like standout stuff. Like if you hate, you can laugh all you want, but when they fucking jump those cars through those towers in Dubai and shit, that is like a standout action sequence from that movie. And even if you laugh at it and go, that's ridiculous, like how unrealistic or whatever, it's still done really well, and it's still put together a lot better than any of the action scenes in this.
How is Idris Elba in it? Because I think he's at his worst when he plays characters like that.
He's meh. He's very forgettable.
Yeah, I think when he plays one-dimensional characters, it just doesn't work for him.
It's not the type of role for him at all.
No.
He does a lot better with actual character roles, and this is just a very one-dimensional comic book character type role.
Yeah.
I'm the Black Superman. Oh, fuck off.
Would
Cool line.
Would it have been better if they didn't try and fit it into the Fast and Furious universe?
It's kind of the reason it's made so much money though, is because it's the Fast and Furious presents.
Yeah, regardless of the financial aspect, like as a movie and a story, if they were just two completely new characters.
I guess, but there's still like there's not heaps of Fast and Furious references, but there's so much like you could probably watch it without watching Fast and Furious, but a lot of it's just kind of sitting on history between these characters.
Right.
Like you're supposed to know that they hate each other and what they've been through and the fights they've had in like number 7 and all this sort of thing, and how Jason Statham's character's gone from being the bad guy to all of a sudden he's the good guy we're going to for help for some reason and whatever else. So
Cool.
Meh.
Yeah. So check out our review discussion to hear us talk about how more meh it is.
Yep. And go see the 1800 screenings, which could have been shown Midsummer.
Yep.
So I also saw another film. I saw Late Night, the new film starring Emma Thompson and Mindy Kaling, in which Emma Thompson is the host of a late night TV show. Crazy Fantasy, a female host of one of those. But she's possibly going to lose the show, and that's Mindy Kaling's a new writer on the show, and shenanigans and things just happen. This is all right. It's pretty solid. Emma Thompson is really good. She's really charismatic, and every time she's on screen, the movie is better. So Emma Thompson, thumbs up. Mindy Kaling is fine. I mean, she doesn't have a lot to do, which is interesting, seeing she's wrote the script. Her character's not the most interesting. It's just sort of positive and upbeat, but doesn't have a huge amount of depth.
My question for this movie is, whose movie is this? Because when I watched the trailer, I couldn't figure out if the main story is about the redemption of this TV host, or the main story is about Mindy Kaling's character.
It feels like they try and do both when they really should have focused on Emma Thompson.
Yeah.
But yeah. John Lithgow also is in the film and does a lot with the little screen time he has, so that's the other standout performance. But yeah, probably can wait till this comes to streaming services to check it out.
Well, there's fucking nothing in my cinema. I'm tempted just to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Dylan, I saw that you watched a few episodes of the latest season of Preacher, shot in Australia.
Shot in Australia, mate. Yeah,
Yep.
they premiered the first 2 episodes back to back for, I don't actually know why, but that's what they did. It's the final season. You can tell it's the final season because they're kind of like, especially as someone who's I've read all of the Preacher comic book. I'm like, okay, I can kind of see, especially because the first episode opens with a flash forward, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I understand where that's taking place within the comic book, and that's taking place like towards the end of the comic book. The main storyline where it's actually taking place is a way off the end, but at least in my mind, I can go, okay, so they're setting up the end, so we're probably going to go from this place to this place. They tease something else, which is a big moment from the comic book, and I'm like kind of trying to connect it all in my head, but they're still changing lots of things. But like key events from the comic book, I'm like, okay, they're going to try and fit it all in this way. I'm enjoying it still. I'm happy that they're kind of getting to end it on their own terms and just be done with it at 4 seasons. I think obviously the numbers were dwindling or whatever last season, but they at least were able to wrap it up, which is always good. It's hard to judge off the 2 episodes how good the overall season will be, but I mean, at this stage, if you're watching Preacher, you're watching Preacher, and if you're not, you're probably not going to jump in like now. You know what I mean? So
it kind of feels directionless at the moment, not knowing where the comics go.
That might be a reason why they did the first 2 episodes, because it's like they kind of have to. I'm trying not to say spoilers, but they kind of have to set things up a little bit, I guess, to get people in certain places.
Yeah.
In the comic, like towards the end, they all get split up a lot, and they all kind of have all these massive things happen. Like for like an entire book, Jesse's off by himself, like doing something else for ages, while they're over here doing this other thing and whatever else. So, and they all get brought back together by this really weird turn of events. So I think that's kind of what they're doing now somewhat, but yeah, episode 3 is dropping as
I started to watch it before the
okay, yeah, I'll be watching it after this. But I mean, it's 10 episodes. I'm gonna hope they stick the landing. I mean, they last season they kicked it into 10th gear and introduced a lot more of the weird elements from the comic book, so I'm kind of hoping that there's still a bunch of other really weird stuff that could happen. And my biggest hope, look, the entire season could be a 6 out of 10, but if they end the show the same way the comic ends, it'll just be amazing, because the way the comic ends is fucking nuts. It is absolute bullshit crazy, to the point where you're like, can they actually do that on a TV show without having people writing letters and trying to sue them type craziness? You know what I mean? Especially given the what this show deals with is about, like God and whatever else, and what they do in the finale of the comic is and if they pull that off, the whole season 6 out of 10, all of a sudden the last episode does that, I'm like 10 out of 10 best season ever.
I don't know, it was just me being not keeping up with it, but I believe from my perspective it has avoided most of the controversy revolving around that kind of stuff so far.
So far they've dodged a lot of it. I mean, they introduced what's his fuck last season, the Jesus Christ, whatever, hump to do or whatever his name is. So, but I mean, the show's missed a lot of the comic books. Also has a lot more to do with the devil and whatever else. And the show's introduced like a character we didn't even have in the comics, which is Hitler and stuff, being like a main character throughout the show. That was never actually in the comics. So. We'll have to wait and see how it wraps up. But I mean, if you enjoy Preacher at this stage, I feel like you're enjoying Preacher.
Oh, yeah. They're still doing the world building pretty fantastically. And it's still fucking batshit crazy. Like, especially lost it at that kind of like animated kind of thing with God and the dinosaurs.
Yeah, I mean that's not even a big spoiler. There's literally a flashback to when God's like talking about his first creations of the dinosaurs. It's fucking dinosaurs, and it's animated horribly, but done on purpose, of course. And this fucking dinosaur takes a massive shit, and God's like, no, don't do that. And then the dinosaur gets down and it like goes and starts to eat its own shit. And then the god's like, fuck this shit. And that's when he calls down the meteors and like fucking destroys all the dinosaurs. Yeah, that's pretty funny. I mean, last thing I'll say is watching those 2 episodes back to back, they weren't like blowing me away. This is the best TV ever. Yeah. I'm not expecting that. So at the same time, I was just like, I'm happy to be watching Preacher again because I like these characters and just these actors in this world. So yeah, I'm along for the ride for sure.
So the only other thing Dylan, you watched Nikita, La Femme Nikita.
That was a rewatch. It was just on TV the other night.
Yeah.
SBS or whatever it is. Luc Besson, before, I think it was his second movie or whatever it is. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I just watched it because it was on. It has an interesting history though, in case anyone doesn't know, because they remade it to that Jane Fonda one in the 90s, and then they also remade it into that TV show in the 2000s.
TV show.
The CW TV show. Yeah, which had like 4 or 5 seasons or whatever it is. So if you've watched that, or you've watched the Bridget Fonda one, which is called The Assassin or whatever, this is the OG original, but it's subtitled because it's in French or whatever it is. It's fine. Luc Besson. It's like if you like what did we talk about on here once?
Leon.
Leon. If you like Leon, that same character's in this. Leon appears in this movie.
Oh, same character.
It's the same character
played by
I think the story goes Yeah, it's played by Jean Reno. And I think he's credited as the cleaner or whatever in this. And I think the behind-the-scenes story goes something along the lines of Jean Reno enjoyed playing that character so much, he asked Luc Besson, like, do you reckon you could do a whole movie for that character? And Luc Besson was like, yeah, I reckon we could. And then he went away, and then the next movie he did was... he filmed some documentary after this, and the next movie he did was that. So, same character, just credited as the cleaner or something. But he has the glasses, and he's an assassin or whatever, yeah.
Does it add anything to his character?
No, you just get to see him be that character for he's not in it for the whole movie. He's in it for 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So the only other thing I want to add before we jump into the mandatory Netflix segment, I watched the all seven Hollywood Reporter TV roundtables are out ahead of the Emmy season. I would recommend watching them all, but if you've only got time, I would suggest watching the comedy actress, drama actors, and probably comedy, probably the showrunner ones as well. They're all good, but those ones are probably standout ones.
You suggested 3 out of how
four.
many?
Four.
Just watch
four
all,
out of
just
seven.
watch all of them.
They're only an hour long. I mean, just put them on the YouTube, listen to them in the background. It's fine. But yeah. Those are the most interesting ones, I think. So let's jump into the mandatory Netflix segment of the show.
What are we going to do one week if none of us watches anything from Netflix?
No, I'll make sure I
What
watch
a
something.
concept!
It's mandatory! Mandatory! I'd just watch some random original movie and then talk about it. Nick, I saw that you watched all of Russian Doll.
I did.
An Emmy-nominated TV series.
Was it after I mentioned it last episode?
It was.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Thursday, what a concept. Never seen it, but hilarious.
Yeah, I enjoyed it overall. It took me 2 or 3 episodes.
Do you want to just give a quick concept pitch?
It's basically Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
But in an apartment.
Or yes and no.
With a woman.
With a woman. Set in the current day.
Yeah.
With no groundhog.
Yeah.
No Bill Murray?
There's a cat, though. No. Yeah, it took me a couple episodes to get into it because she's a very, abrasive kind of character, which is, she plays the same sort of character in Orange is the New Black, and it, about halfway through, it introduces a new element that I think was sorely needed, because if it was just the whole series just focusing on this one thing, it would have got stale very quickly. But yeah, I recommend giving it a watch. It's only short and you can get through it pretty quickly. I wasn't entirely satisfied with the ending. It was fine, but it didn't answer as many questions as I kind of hoped it would.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll give it a go. It's comedy, drama, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been renewed for a second season. Is that something you'd be into?
Oh. I honestly don't know how they would do it, to be honest, without...
I might be
Is it
just
the
making
same
stuff up, but...
Friday, what a concept.
Yeah, that is odd. I honestly... Unless it's a whole nother... a whole new characters, a new story, it'd be...
Well,
yeah,
I just want to
apparently
say...
Russian Doll... I'm reading a headline from Collider. Russian Doll Season 3 planned as the end of the Netflix series.
They're skipping season 2.
Well, I guess they're doing the next 2 seasons.
I mean, if I haven't watched it, but I'm going to just jump. I would just assume that she gets out of the cycle by the end of the show. But also, they did that movie called Happy Death Day, which I watched and I thought was okay. And I haven't watched the sequel yet, but that came out this year or last year, whatever it was, late last year. Happy Death Day to You or whatever, where they just end up back in a Groundhog Day cycle once again. And literally in the trailer for that, she's like, I'm in it again. So, I mean, they could just do the same shit. I don't know.
I don't know. I guess kind of the appeal for it. I mean, not knowing what it's going to be like, it could end up being great, but just, I think part of the appeal of that kind of story is them realizing they're in it and trying to work it out instead of coming to it again going like, oh, I've done this before. I kind of know what to do. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So the big Netflix release this week has been the new season of Glow, Season 3. The gorgeous ladies of wrestling. This season they're in Las Vegas, performing their wrestling show in one of the casinos over there, as you do. I think it's still a very enjoyable show. I just don't think it is as strong as the previous seasons. I don't think story plot-wise. It could just be that because they've set in Las Vegas for a set amount of time, there's no conflict or there's no pressure to adapt. Even during the show, the characters talk about them sort of phoning it in and trading water, and it feels a little bit like that. There are some interesting character developments, mostly the character of Sheila the She-Wolf. She goes through an interesting arc through the season. There's a couple of couplings that have storylines that follow through the whole season. I feel like Ruth, played by Alison Brie, has like the weakest season of the run so far. She just does kind of nothing all season. She's sort of a passenger. And also Bash, played by Chris Lowell, I believe, from Veronica Mars.
From Veronica Mars, man.
Yeah, he has an interesting arc, obviously. And Betty Gilpin, again, is a standout performer this season, but she's given a lot to do, so...
Is Mark Maron still in it?
Yes, he's still in it. He does get sort of sidelined halfway through the season. And it definitely feels like it's setting up for a season 4 towards the end. They do it. The last episode definitely feels like a rush set up.
Have you both finished it?
I'm only halfway.
Okay.
Yeah, so...
Does it end in a way because it's becoming increasingly troublesome that Netflix is cancelling shows, especially with like the OA and that? There was a big...
No, they'll definitely give this a 4th season.
Yeah, they've got Netflix thing is 2 seasons. No, it's 3. It's
4 seasons. 4 seasons is the max.
Seasons. I thought 3 was the max. Okay, we'll see.
4 seasons is the max before everybody gets too expensive.
Okay, yeah. I thought it was 3 and then they're too expensive, whatever it was. But okay, 4.
No, actually, you're right. It might be... No...
Because I thought that's why, like, Narcos had 3 seasons and then it got whipped over into a new thing, like a category or whatever it was. We went over this one, so I can't. We've already fucking forgot. I'll say while you look it up that I'm only halfway through, but I'm enjoying it more than season 2. So,
I dropped off a few episodes into season 2.
Yeah, I got like halfway through season 2, and then I stopped for a couple months, and then I went back and finished it after the fact, and I actually found that the later half of season 2 better than the first half, and I ended up enjoying the last couple episodes a lot more because they dealt more with character stuff, and I think the reason I'm enjoying this season more so far than the last season is because it's actually introducing lots of really interesting directions for the characters that I'm seeing, and I don't know if it pays off and what Ash is saying, but so far I'm seeing like this interesting things happening with Debbie, and I'm like, that's a really interesting direction they're heading with her. Cherry, is that the trainer girl or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah, something interesting is happening with her character that's coming in. I haven't seen what's happening with Sheila yet. Oh, I've seen something happening with Sheila, but I'm like, I don't know where that's going to go. Even Mark Maron as Sam, like he's having like kind of a character change throughout this season. Like I feel like everyone's actually kind of growing as characters throughout this season, or they're introducing ways that they will gradually change for the better or worse, and that's really interesting. Like I'd loved. In fact, my favorite episode of what I've watched so far was the second episode, which basically just dealt with everyone's romances, and it did this really it did a really unique look at the lesbian relationship that's happening in the show, and like the way they address that, and the way that I don't know any of the characters' names of the show. There's too many fucking characters, but I can't remember what the character's name, but the way they address like one of the characters being like really afraid of being intimate with the other girl, and like they did all this sort of stuff.
Yolanda and Artie.
Okay. But I'm enjoying all that stuff. I'll agree what you said so far that Ruth seems sidelined, but honestly, I don't care because I'm like it was always about her, and maybe now she just gets to be somewhat sidelined. Like she's more working in part to help other characters, or at least attempt to help them, and like be part of the other characters' stories at this stage. And yeah, so like, but it's also got it has barely any wrestling. It's mostly just more about the characters and what they're doing. The only time I've seen wrestling so far has been in the first episode. So it is Glow, but at the same time, it feels like seasons 1 and 2 are like over here as chapter 1, and season 3 appears to be like the first chapter of a new story, is what I'm getting so far. You know, like a second direction for it. So yeah, I'm enjoying it more in season 2 so far. So hopefully I feel the same when I finished it, but we'll see.
Yeah, I just feel because it's got such a large ensemble cast, it feels like there's just smaller changes rather than a big change over the entire season.
Yeah,
which is fine. People are going to like that, I think.
Yeah, but it's like if you look at season 1 and 2 as one big story, and then potentially if season 3 and 4 are going to be like one big story, then what they're doing here is kind of teeing those off. You know what I mean? Like setting up and doing the stories or whatever else. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, there is definitely an opportunity for more people to shine. Where I feel like the last couple of seasons have just been Debbie, Ruth, and Mark Maron's character as the focus. I also mentioned that in episode 4, there's a Bobby Barnes is introduced. Who's a great character this season. Also, Gina Davis is in this season. She's pretty solid.
Yeah,
she has one moment in one of the last episodes that is pretty impressive for a lady of her age.
Also, there's penis this season, which I tweeted about beforehand.
There is penis.
So I'm rating this season quite higher already. There
is more nudity this season.
There's a lot more nudity, but it's even ground nudity. You got the boobies, and you got the wang.
Yep.
Fuck off, Game of Thrones. You're sexist.
Yep. Also, a really brutal opening to the season.
I don't remember. Yeah. That is. Well, that was some black humor, is what that was.
That was dark.
That was some dark humor. Yeah.
So yeah, Glow.
Also, the last thing I'll say, I'm enjoying. Another thing I noticed is I'm enjoying seeing Debbie and Ruth as friends. You know?
Yeah.
Because 2 seasons of them hating each other, eventually that grows
stale.
Yeah, like, can you just please, for the love of God? And, you know, we're not big spoilers for season 2, but that's kind of resolved in season 2. Well, so season 3 where they're actually talking and not yelling at each other and being like, all the time. And that's good. They have one really great scene in one of the episodes I just watched, like episode 3 or 4, whatever it was. I don't remember. That was really cool. So.
Yep. Nick, I saw that you've been binge watching Dairy Girls. What is Dairy Girls?
Dairy Girls is a comedy. I wouldn't say it's a sitcom, but it's a comedy show of these 4 girls and 1 guy growing up in the 90s in Northern Ireland. They're Catholics, and it's basically like a, I guess, coming of age kind of thing. Comedy. No, I've never watched Skins, but I imagine it'd be kind of like that. And yeah, just their life being at all-girls school and dealing with all the strife and the troubles going on, and just, getting into shenanigans like teenagers do.
Doesn't sound like your usual type of show, to be honest, but...
I don't mind, like, English comedies like that, I guess. It kind of... just from the religious aspect, it kind of sort of reminds me of Vicar of Dibley or Father Ted, but yeah, I'd definitely give it a go. It's the accents can be a bit thick and tough to understand, but it's some really good moments in there.
This appears on our Netflix as a Netflix original, doesn't it?
It is, but it's a Channel 4 show.
Yeah, I just googled it and it said it was a Channel 4 show, so I was wondering because it said the first season came out last year.
Yeah.
In Channel 4, but we've only just got it on Netflix, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't realise, like, I got to the end of season 1 and it just started playing in season 2. I was like, oh, shit, I didn't realise season 2 was already on
so
here.
they dropped...
season 2
releases both of them are there, yeah.
Ah, okay. Interesting. Yeah, so season 2 first aired 5th of March to 9th of April. So, what, they must have dropped both seasons around the time the second season finished airing on Channel 4, I guess?
Yeah, must have, yeah, because I only noticed it recently being the big promoted thing on the splash screen. And
I noticed it there as well.
Yeah.
I was like,
oh, what the fuck is this? So I looked it up and thought, oh yeah, that's right up my alley. Ireland, IRA, all that kind of stuff. So I watched that. But yeah, it's quite good.
I added it to my list. I enjoy it good.
Yeah, and it's, like, again, quick to get through, though. They're 24-minute episodes and six episodes a season.
God bless the British and their shorter seasons.
Makes things so much easier. Dylan, I saw that you watched the latest season of Dear White People.
I did.
How's it stack up?
How's it stack up?
Do they get to another sentence?
No, they don't. My favorite thing about this show every single time, so it dropped on Netflix, and I literally opened up Twitter and I saw it was trending, and it was because it was a bunch of people complaining. And they're like, "Imagine if this show was called Dear Black People, what would we do then?" I'm like, dude, it's into its third fucking season. Like, this joke isn't even
based off a movie that's fucking older again.
Yeah, based on a movie that's even older. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, can we get over it now? I enjoy this show. I enjoy its characters. I enjoy its commentary, I guess, however you want to put it. I think it's well written, but at the same time, like, you either enjoy the show or you don't, because like, it is realistic, but it's written in a very like fantasy-esque way. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. So it's like, you either like it or don't, I suppose. But I enjoyed the third season. They set it up for a fourth season, so hopefully that comes. It's one of only, well, I don't know, I can't even name that many, but you know, it's a show with basically an entire black cast, and I think that's like kind of a big plus amongst the rest of the stuff that Netflix produces and puts money into. So I think for that reason alone, it's I'm hoping they kind of keep it around this season. But Samantha, the main character, goes through an interesting storyline this season, and then it's kind of broken up into different sorts of mini stories, tackling different stuff, and the last couple episodes kind of tackle, I guess. I mean, to me, it was kind of like they were trying to have something to say about either like what the fuck is his name? Old Puddin' Pop. What's his name?
Bill Cosby.
It seemed like they was either having something to say about like the black community having to deal with someone like Bill Cosby or fucking R. Kelly or something like that. Someone like high up, like big, achieved well, and then having to deal with the fact that maybe your hero is actually a piece of shit kind of thing. So I found that like interesting, but they never, all of the stuff and the way it's written, it's always like trying to have something to say about something. It's just kind of the way you interpret it, of course, because they never mention anyone. It's all to do, they have a character that's kind of comes into the school that's put on a platform that's kind of, but then they find out he's pretty shitty. So then it's like, but you know, it's trying to relate some way. But yeah, I think it's well written, and they're 30-minute episodes, so it's pretty easy to smash through, I find.
Cool. So I'm about 3.5 episodes into the new Netflix series Woo Assassins, starring one of Dylan's boy, Iko Uwais. I'm torn because this plot and story is not good. The acting is not great.
Yes, this is everything I've read.
Fight scenes are very solid, though.
Yeah, that's all I care about.
That if you're into fight scenes, I mean, fast forward through the plot and then just watch the fight scenes, because it is a bunch of gibberish.
Do you want to explain? Because it's like, do you know what the synopsis is?
Yeah, so Iko Uwais' character is a chef in San Francisco, and he suddenly, randomly, in the middle of, gets imbued with powers of 1,000 monks to fight the warlords who control the 5 elements of the world, who have reborn. It's like an avatar kind of thing. And then it just so happens that his adopted father is one of the warlords that he needs to kill. Yeah. He constantly says... It's funny because he constantly saying, "I'm just a chef," which is a...
Everything I've read,
he's just a chef.
Everything I've read about it, people are like, the story's kind of nonsense and the acting's not great, but the fighting's good. I'm like, well, that's all I care about.
Here's a question for you. Would it be offensive to Netflix to add a mode, like offensive to the creators to add a mode that just skips the parts and goes straight to the fights?
Yes.
No, because that's called YouTube. People just fucking cut them out and put them up there.
I mean, if they had like a chapter select and it just so happened that every single chapter starts at the beginning of a fight, that would be okay.
How long are the episodes?
40 to 50 minutes.
Okay,
that seems like a lot to endure.
Yeah,
it is, and there's some CGI in it that's not good. Are you
going to finish watching it?
I don't know. Maybe if I've got something else I need to do.
Let's face it. You watch those CW shows, you're going to finish it.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even got to the bit where Summer Glau shows up, so maybe I'll stick it out till then.
Yeah, I'm at least going to start it. I don't care what anyone's saying. Like maybe it's terrible and I stopped watching it, but I feel like because I'm a bit of a fanboy, they've at least got me hooked a little bit here on the hook to keep watching it, but we'll have to see. I have to start it first. I was like, fuck, I need to start Glow and finish Glow first before.
Did you watch that other movie with Iko and Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah. Well, what was that called?
Oh, that's the one, the convoy something.
That was terrible.
Yeah. Okay.
But he barely fought.
Just making sure how much of a fanboy you are.
Well, the only good parts of that movie is.
Did you watch Stuber?
No, because it hasn't come out yet.
Yes, it has.
Not where I am.
Oh, man.
I'll go watch. I'll watch Stuber.
It came out the same week as Booksmart, so.
Yeah, so they. Yeah, I've not had. You don't understand, Ash. I have nothing to watch. My cinema. I have not gone to the cinema since the last episode because it is nothing has changed.
You just went to see Hobbs and Shaw.
Okay, one movie has changed since the 2 weeks since we last recorded this podcast. That is not acceptable. Okay, one fucking movie's changed. All these other, I got fucking Midsummer, Booksmart, Stuber, whatever they call it. That movie didn't even get good reviews. I don't care. I will go pay to see that fucking movie. I like Kamal Nanjiani. Let me watch the fucking movie, you know?
Are you sure Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's coming?
Yeah, I'd fucking double check.
Don't worry, how many screenings have you got a fucking Danger Close Battle along to?
The first screenings of Once Upon a Time in Mexico is like 2:00 or something on Thursday. And
Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Yeah.
I mean, Once Upon a Time.
God, Tasmania gets films late.
Fuck, if they were showing Once Upon a Time in Mexico in my cinema, I would go pay to see it because I've never watched that on the big screen and I enjoy that movie. So yeah, there you go.
All right, but yeah, Real Assassins. Probably, we'll see. I'll report back next episode probably. Nick, I saw that you've been watching Mindhunter. Is this in anticipation of the second season coming out next week?
Is this because I mentioned this on the last podcast? It
was, yeah. And not only that, but I had wanted to watch it originally.
Nick's watch history is just everything I mentioned last episode.
It's kind of weird. I'm enjoying it. I really am, and I like that Anna Torv is working again because I think she's a really good actress.
She did those Secret City
things
in Australia, on Foxtel. So
yeah, that's Australian TV. That's no good.
Ooh, shots fired.
Kind of weird. I find the main actor of Ford, the way he plays his character is just so fucking boring. He's just such a boring character.
Yeah, but that's how he's supposed to be.
I know,
but literally how he's supposed to be.
It doesn't make a very interesting show.
But well, come on, it's.
What they're investigating and finding out about, and his partner and all the surrounding characters are interesting. It's just himself is just makes it kind of a chore to sit through.
Pause for a sec. Did we explain what this was last week? Or doesn't matter. We could have new listeners.
I don't
this
think
week
so.
anyway.
No.
Mindhunter is basically. I think the easiest way to explain it is the origins of the serial killer.
Yeah.
It is like the FBI investigating people. This is before serial
profiling and stuff.
Yeah,
like
profiling people, but this is before the word serial killer has been invented.
Yeah,
and
sequence killer.
Yes, sequence killer. And you've got this main character Holden Ford and his partner. I brought up thing here, Bill Tench.
Bill Tench.
Tench.
I believe they're fictional.
They are, but it's based
based on real people.
It's based on real people and events and stuff like that, but they're fictional characters to build around the story of the introduction of the serial killer and how they go about that. And the character Holden, who you're saying is boring, I think the reason I think he was written that way and the way he is because he's a profiler and they're going for that kind of stereotypical. They always do this movies though. Like he's a very boring, like he gets obsessed, you know what I mean? Like very boring personality, and that's because he's so obsessed with these people, and you see that happen in the show. He starts becoming
he doesn't get affected by anything where you see a partner trying to struggle and to deal with it all and the fucked up and all that. Yeah.
And the show is fairly dark, I'd say. So
yeah. Oh, it is.
How many episodes are you in?
I'd have to look it up, but I think I'm like 2/3 of the way through.
Okay, because I was about to say the season finale ends on a cliffhanger, and I've been waiting for fucking 2 years.
I'm up to season 8. Yeah.
So
episode 8, sorry.
Episode. Okay, yeah. So you've only got two to go then.
Yeah.
And the second season starts this week, so good for you. Because when's it say? The last episode aired 13th of October 2017. So it all dropped on one date. So let's say I've been waiting since mid-October 2 years ago to find out how the season finale. And when you get to the season finale and see what happens, you'll be like, yeah, glad I only have to wait a day to find out what happens here. And side trivia note, because someone mentioned this here, well, it could be mentioned next week as well.
The same actor. Yeah.
It's the same actor. So in Once Upon a Time, and they announced this when season 1 finished, they announced the casting that early, that far ago, because they were like filming them at the same time or whatever. But the same actor who's playing Marilyn, Charles Manson,
Australian dude, yeah.
Charles Manson, who's playing him in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, is playing Charles Manson in the second season of Mindhunter. So, and that's because, and they were also filming those things at roughly the same time, apparently. So, random events that happen there. I'm going to go watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Well, we're both going to go watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood this week, see him in that movie, and then the second season of this drops on Friday, and then you'll get to see him play the exact same character again, but in a different universe.
Yeah.
It's quite weird, really.
Yeah, it is. One thing I've got to commend is the guys playing the people they're interviewing in jail really sell the derangedness and the fucked upness, and even the portrayal of the real life people. It's pretty spot on. Especially the dude that plays Edmund Kemper, the real tall dude with glasses.
He is the best. He is, because it just comes across so. They don't do like I'm serial killer, so I'm fucking psycho and jumping around the place. Yeah. It's just like so calm and just.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it scary.
It really makes you believe how they were able to operate in society without anyone suspecting anything.
Yeah. I also think that what's his name? Holt McCallany, who plays Bill. I think he's fucking really, really good.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic. Yeah, I think he's must stand out for the show
because he's like the balancing act to what you're saying. Like if Holden as a character,
like the heart,
is like boring, dry personality and like kind of the obsessive person with these personalities, then you have Bill as the person who's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, we can't do that, or you can't do this, or like, there's something wrong with you. Like, he's the voice of reason throughout most of the show. So
the human element, even.
Yeah. Also, for people who are wondering, like, this David Fincher was involved with this show, and he directed like the premiere and stuff. And that opening episode is like, okay, we're going. Like, even the first 10 minutes of that show, it's like, okay.
I might have to jump on this now that timing's right.
Yeah. Now that time is right.
Now that you've got 2 out of 3 recommendations from the show.
Yeah. I mean, now that I don't have to wait like 2 years before the cliffhanger is resolved, now I can watch the first season.
There's something I want to say. I don't know, just from my perspective, there seems to be a growing trend of shows skipping a year, which I don't mind, actually. I think it makes, or in general, makes for better TV.
I don't mind because it's, most of these people are like, we want to make a good show, and it doesn't. We're going to take our time to write it and cast it and fucking direct it and whatever else. And a show like this, and a bunch of other shows on Netflix too, they just go out and film them like they're 10-hour movies. You know,
not only that, like HBO with Big Little Lies and Westworld and
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I didn't want to.
No, shut the fuck up.
Donald Glover with Atlanta. Great shows.
I just appreciate that they're taking their time to do it the way they want to do it.
Yeah.
So the only other thing I want to mention, I watched the third season of She-Ra. It's pretty solid. I think it progresses the story much further than the second season. It definitely feels like this was meant to be the second half of the second season. And even if you look at there's only 6 episodes. The second season had 7 episodes. First season had 13 episodes.
I think they just hold them and split them up.
Yeah, I think they just held them so they could evenly spread them out, which I guess makes sense for it's mostly a children's show, so it makes sense. But
I don't mind if they're doing that, honestly, because it's not like you're like, but you're making me pay for one thing. It's like, no, well, they're not. Like, you pay for Netflix if they want to split up, if they want to like create 24 episodes and then split them up into 12 episode seasons or what have you.
I mean, you could just release an episode a week at this point. Whatever you want to do. But yeah, it definitely leaves it an interesting point at the end of the season where it seems like they might have a new enemy next season, which could progress more of the that world, the Master of the Universe world.
One day I want to catch up on this show, and then you'll have someone to actually talk to about it.
It all makes
it's on
sense
my list
one day.
forever. It's
Is
on my list
He-Man
forever.
part of that universe?
He is part of the universe. He's not part of the show, though.
Yeah.
Is Skeletor?
No.
But yeah,
Well,
but
Skeletor's... yeah, again.
She-Ra's like a magical girl TV show, or whatever you want to call it.
He's... Yeah.
It's like an anime thing.
It's like Sailor Moon, sort of.
Yeah, Sailor Moon, exactly. Yeah. Sailor Moon. Yeah. Whereas He-Man's like just a dude running around with a fucking axe or whatever. It's not quite
That's
as...
not true.
It's a sword, mate.
Sword. Oh, Jesus, sorry. It's a
He
fucking
transforms into wearing
fucking
those
sword,
clothes.
mate. It's a fucking sword, all right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's everything that we've been watching. Let's move to the film news. And the biggest story that caused a bit of a outrage over the internet. Universal has cancelled the movie The Hunt after the recent mass shootings in America and political controversies all over the place. The film, which stars Betty Gilpin and Hilary Swank, was set to be released in America on September the 27th, but Universal Pictures released an official statement announcing the cancelled release. They said, while Universal Pictures has already paused the marketing campaign for The Hunt, after thoughtful consideration, the studio has decided to cancel our plans to release the film. We stand by filmmakers and continue to distribute films in partnership with bold and visionary creators, like those associated with this satirical social thriller, but we understand that now is not the right time to release this film. I feel like I can understand from a business point of view that maybe this isn't the best time to release a film like this, with a film with so much gun violence. I did watch the trailer, obviously, to get a bit more context, and I wouldn't say it's terribly has a lot of gun violence. It definitely feels more like the premise of the... let's see if I can pull up synopsis.
I've got it here if you want it. It says 12... Oh, fuck. 12 strangers wake up in a clearing. They don't know where they are or how they got there. They don't know they've been chosen for a very specific purpose, the hunt. It's like it's literally a bunch of rich people taking people out to hunt them.
Yeah. It feels like the Hunger Games more than anything else, I guess.
Yeah, but it's like an eco. It's like I think the original title for the movie was like Red State versus Blue State or some shit like that. So.
It would make It would make sense for them to. It sounds like a Jeffrey Epstein kind of thing more than a school mass shooting kind of thing.
It's nothing to do with school shootings. It's just like
no. I think cynical in me. I think it's for publicity. No. So when they do decide to release it down the line, they go, "Oh, this is the movie with." That got cancelled cancelled release because all the stuff happened before. Kind of like what was that North Korea one?
The Interview.
Yeah,
which they pushed. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. People were going off on Twitter like this doesn't actually happen. There's like several sides to it because there was some people saying on Twitter in mass outrage because they were saying the only reason it was not canned but shelved. I guess shelved would be the right word.
Cancelled is a strong word. It is the one that's infuriating.
Postponed.
People.
It's postponed for the.
If they had used a different word, there wouldn't be so much outrage.
Yeah. So there was a lot of people saying that the only reason it was postponed was because Donald Trump tweeted about it and said that it's a despicable movie and blah 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 blah, and then like a day or two later is when it got shelved. So a lot of people were like putting on their tinfoil hats and being like, "Well, Donald Trump caused the movie to be shelved," which. If Donald Trump was the reason the movie got shelved, I would be like, yeah, that is fucked. Like, why should the president get to say what kind of movies?
If anything, I'd use that to help drive sales. Come see the movie that Donald Trump
hates. Yeah, exactly. But I don't think that was it at all. I think like you don't shelve a movie in a 2-day period. The conversations would have been going on for obviously a lot longer than a fucking day or two after Donald Trump tweeted about it. But here's how fucked up I don't know if this is fucked up for me to say. I guess it somewhat is, but it's just the state of affairs we're in. They're like, it's not a good time to release the movie. But honestly, when is there going to be a good time? Since there's a fucking shooting every week.
I could understand if it was a movie like about Sandy Hook or Columbine or something like that, but it just seems so the only thing related to it is that involves guns and like fucking how many movies out there have guns and violence and horror elements? Like I don't know. It's kind of a. I honestly think the cynic in me is like it's helped to drum up kind of stuff.
I actually think it's just because they're afraid, because we're now living in this world at the moment where you got Trump and all these other parties and whatever else trying to say that, you know, video games and violent movies are the reason that these people are shooting up places and whatever else. It's like we're regressing to the fucking late 80s and early 90s or whatever have you, of these sorts of conversations happening. And I think that Universal was just afraid because of the backlash they would potentially get over it from a bunch of people. I'm hoping that they only shelve it for, don't know, not too long. Whenever it comes out, it's there's never going to be as good a time as the Halloween type period, I guess. So unless they're going to shelve it for an entire year, it's like a bit disappointing. And it's also really disappointing.
Well, I wouldn't call it a horror movie though.
Sounds pretty horror.
It's
especially
it sounds like Hostel.
This year you're going up against It Chapter 2 as well.
It's a horror movie. It's being produced by Blumhouse Productions or whatever. So it
doesn't look horrorish though.
It's the Purge.
Mister, This Is England is a horror movie.
Yeah, it's the same as like the Purge 2 and 3 are horror movies technically, but to me they're not like horror movies. They're thriller horror movies with the thriller coming first, and I would presume this is much the same. It would be like a thriller first with some horror elements or whatever. But I mean, one of the writers on this was Damon Lindelof, which I was like, oh, Lindelof is writing another horror movie. Cool. Can I watch it? No, you can't. Fuck. All right, cool. No.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see whether it does get a theatrical release or it just ends up on a streaming service or VOD down the line.
I guess it depends how much they invested into it.
But again, the publicity around this, the buzz, I think, just to spite Donald Trump will be a contributing factor to any positive box office in the future, I think. So, yeah, that's one to watch. So Disney released their third quarter financials and made a few different announcements. Mostly that they're axing the majority of the existing Fox film development slate and refocusing output after the studio posted a $170 million operating loss in Disney's fiscal third quarter. Disney CEO Bob Iger told Wall Street analysts on Tuesday during Disney's quarterly earnings call that the Fox superhero titles would move forward under the stewardship of Feige. In addition, the company's streaming platform Disney Plus will get 4 big brands for Fox to adapt as straight-to-service content. Those 4 big properties are Home Alone, Night at the Museum, Cheaper by the Dozen, and The Diary of the Wimpy Kid. Do you guys want to see a modern-day adapted Home Alone film?
I don't invest.
Look, I think it can work for a kids' movie. Like, kids don't have the attachment to the original.
How's it work though? Oh, like
yeah.
So
have you seen the Jen Lewis comic, which is adapts what Home Alone would be now? Oh no, I got left home alone. Let me just text my mum.
Yeah, let me fucking send a tweet out or text my mum or something like literally anything like that. Yeah. So
the strangest one to me is Cheaper by the Dozen. When was the last time there was one of those movies?
Well, they did a sequel, didn't they?
Yeah, they did 2 in the early
2005. Cheaper by the Dozen, 2005.
I mean, honestly, that does make sense for Disney. I mean, Cheaper by... In those... Well, there's, 12? Was there 12 kids or is it 10?
Yeah, a dozen. 12.
Yeah, well, then you just stick a bunch of those Disney actors from their children's show in the show, and then you...
Are they getting Steve Martin back?
I mean...
I'm somehow doubtful.
Well, he's not in very high demand these days, I think.
I mean, they could get him. Whether he want to do it.
They can get him Cheaper by the Dozen for 12 movies.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe as like a grandfather figure.
I think that the Cheaper by the Dozen...
Get Tom Welling to play the dad.
Actually, yeah, I'd pay to see that. I think that one would work out well for them because it's like a family thing. Like, they got to fill gaps in their their slate of stuff on the service, and that would be a family movie. Home Alone,
cheap to make.
Yeah, and cheap to make. Home Alone, I think, is absolutely rubbish idea because I think it's perfectly fine the way it is. I think remaking it, you can't remake it and set it today. And
well, to be fair, they made 2 extra sequels that they didn't need to make.
Did you hear what the rumor was though? For what?
Home Alone 3 is a good movie.
No. Did you hear what the rumor was?
I think they might have made a 5th one
for Home Alone. So apparently the rumor is that it'll be about a kid who steals something from these gangsters or whatever in the neighborhood, and then spends the rest of the movie trying to run away from them, which isn't Home Alone.
So the kid's the bad guy.
Yeah, exactly. At that stage, it's not fucking Home Alone. It's the kid's a little shit, and he's got gangsters chasing after him.
He's getting what he deserves.
Yeah, like that's not even Home Alone. So fuck that out of here. If you want to make that movie and call it something else. There's no need for you to call it Home Alone. Home Alone's perfectly fine the way it is, and you can't remake it because it just won't work. What's Diary for a Wimpy Kid? Sure, those movies actually do quite well because they have.
There was a 5th Home Alone movie.
Yeah, there's Home Alone: The Holiday Heist, which is in 2012.
Yeah. So I told you those 2 movies that didn't get made.
I've only watched 3. What was the other thing apart from Diary for a Wimpy Kid? There was something else, wasn't there? No.
Cheap Brother Dozen.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah.
No, there was 4, wasn't there?
A Night in the Museum, which seems like a really odd one, considering that
I don't know. I
feels
think
like
that
the
makes
most
sense.
recent of the last few of those 4. Well, Diary of a Wimpy Kid's pretty
yeah, I
recent.
guess
as
so.
well.
But I think as a concept, if they cast it well and they aim it at kids and they cast like a star or whatever that will attract family audiences and stuff, then yeah, that's another one that already raked in money when it was originally coming out. As much as you wouldn't believe who's watching these, a lot of people were, and I think if they cast them well enough and whatever, then yeah, sure, whatever. The only one that's what I'm saying. The only one I don't care for is the Home Alone thing. I think that's a bad idea all over.
I think that's a strange hill to die on. Just let him make it.
Get out of here! Like you've never said anything like that before.
No, I haven't. I'm open to new adaptations and interpretations.
I mean, yeah. Night at the Museum could work as like a TV series as well, I guess. Same as Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I guess that would make even more sense because you make more of it with the kids while they're still young.
Yeah, the Diary as a Wimpy Kid would work better as a TV show than a movie, probably.
Yeah. Over on Reddit, they've highlighted some of the films that have been removed from the Fox production slate. Now that Disney's taken over. So I'm just going to mention some notable ones. Chronicle 2 was on the list. That's definitely not getting made. Don't know why they
I think it
thought
was
that
ever getting made to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was it. That was been on the slate for quite some time. I don't think it was ever happening.
Fear Street 2 and 3, even though...
What the fuck is
I don't know what Fear Street 1 is.
So Fear Street is a bunch of novels created by R.L. Stine. The film is meant to come out next year. But yes, it looks like there's potential sequels are not going to be coming out. A Flash Gordon reboot. I believe Taika Waititi was attached to that at some point. That's not going to happen.
He was, yeah.
Hitman 2. I think that was definitely not going to happen.
Which
same as
Hitman 3?
yeah. Same as Assassin's Creed 2. That was still in development apparently.
Oh, damn.
Man, I love that movie so much. I'm so sad right now. Oh, no.
Yeah. A Magic the Gathering film. That was in the works. That's also not going to be happening. We are still believe getting the Russos being on anime thing. So it's not a total loss. McLean, the Die Hard film.
Thank fuck. This concept was the stupidest thing ever. So die in a fire.
Yeah. That's
fucking
disappointing.
Prequel. Get out of here.
What wasn't it like? It was a prequel.
It was a fucking
sequel.
prequel / sequel. They were going to flash back and all this shit,
yeah.
and they were going to de-age Bruce Willis and all this other crap. Get the fuck out of here.
Yep. A Mega Man movie was in the works. That could have been interesting, I guess, but it's in a world where Sonic the Hedgehog is being made.
Mega Man.
The Argonauts. You know, from Jason and the
Jason
Argonauts.
and the Argonauts, yeah.
Yeah, that was in development. The End of Eternity. I don't know exactly what that is.
My life.
Oh, it's a Isaac Asimov novel. So obviously there would have been some fans for that one. Heat 2, The Heat 2, which would have been the sequel to
the Heat 2. Jeez, you scared me.
I scared myself there for a second. Which would have been
what?
The sequel to the Melissa McCarthy film. That's not going to be happening. There was going to be another adaptation of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. So something else for Alan Moore to have gotten upset about. So dodged a bullet there. Another Pink Panther movie was in the works.
With who was in the last one?
Steve Martin.
Oh, that's right. I was thinking Get Smart with Steve Carell.
Yeah. Apparently they were working on The Sims movie.
How's that work?
I reckon that could actually work as like a horror type of movie.
As a foreign language film?
No, but like, can you imagine like a bunch of people having control over other people's lives and stuff? Like, I reckon it could have worked, but it was never going to be anything like any remotely as interesting as that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it could have been. Yeah, I guess as a horror movie or like a Truman Show-esque thing, where all of a sudden you just get these random stuff appear in your house.
Sounds like a Black Mirror episode.
Suddenly you've got a whole new floor to your house.
Yeah.
You've got a whole second level.
You got a floating green diamond above your head.
Oh my god, I suddenly have the urge to change my career.
Why did the ladder from the swimming pool suddenly disappear?
Why am I brushing my teeth in the kitchen sink? It's weird. Yeah. The Sandlot prequel's been cancelled. That was in the works.
Damn.
I mean, prequel. I could have sworn they were working on a Sandlot sequel. Was the thing. So maybe that's still a thing. How would you even do a Sandlot prequel?
Weren't they kids already?
They were kids already.
Yeah, it'd be like a fucking
Sandlot babies,
toddler type of movie.
Yeah, that would have been good. And also, there was meant to be a Zorro reboot, directed by Alfonso Cuarón's son.
Well, there's still rumors that they're going to turn that Quentin Tarantino comic into a thing. So,
yeah,
there's a Quentin Tarantino comic.
Yeah, they did a
Django versus Zorro.
Django
and Zorro.
Yeah.
Oh,
that could be a thing.
Oh.
And then other projects that got cancelled include original films by Fede Alvarez, who did Don't Breathe and Evil Dead 2013, a film for Tim Miller, who did Deadpool, 2 films from David Ayer, who did Fury and End of Watch, a film by Andy Serkis, 5 movies from Paul Feig, a movie from Marielle Heller, movie from Kari Fukunaga, a heist movie from Matt Reeves, the McDonald's Monopoly franchise scandal movie from Ben Affleck that we mentioned in a previous episode, 2 films from Sean Levy, a film by Rick Famuyiwa, who directed Dope. That was a film by Drew Goddard, a film by George Clooney, and 2 films from Morton Tildum, who did The Imitation Game. So, a lot of stuff has been cancelled, whether they find new homes. It feels like that. Apparently, it's a couple of 100 projects, so that's pretty. Lot of non-franchise stuff is.
Sounds like the type of thing that would happen when you buy a studio.
Yeah,
you probably.
That's on top of the stuff that we already knew, like Mouse Guard and other stuff.
None of this surprises me.
It's just disappointing. Like, we'll never get to see these projects, probably.
Is it? What are you most disappointed about?
Maybe. I would have liked
what one's keeping you up at night, Ash? Tell me.
I would have liked to see a heist thriller by Matt Reeves. You know, between his Batman films.
You had the poster on your wall, did you? You was like, "Fuck, I'm living. I can't watch heist thriller by Matt Reeves."
Yeah.
These fucking Disney pricks.
I've been holding out hope for Chronicle 2, and it's not gonna happen. All right.
Fucking hell.
Something that you brought to my attention the other week. There is going to be a new Lucasfilm project. Disney is interested in the book Children of Blood and Bone, and Kathleen Kennedy is hoping to produce under the Lucasfilm umbrella. It tells the story of Ziel Adebola, who remembers when the soil of Oroshima hummed with magic, burners ignited flames, tiders beckoned waves, and Ziel's Reaper Mother summoned forth spirits. But everything changed the night magic disappeared. Under the orders of a ruthless king, Magi were killed, leaving Ziel without a mother and her people without hope. Now Zeal has one chance to bring back magic and strike against the monarchy. With the help of a rogue princess, Zeal must outwit and outrun the crown prince, who is hellbent on eradicating magic for good. Danger lurks in Orisha, where slow leapineers? I don't know. Prowl and vengeful spirits wait in the waters. Yet the greatest danger may be Zeal herself, as she struggles to control her powers and her growing feelings for an enemy. Apparently, director Rick Fumiya, who I mentioned before for Dope, and can't pronounce his name, and he's also working on The Mandalorian, is attached to direct. But yeah, this would be the first non-Star Wars, non-Indiana Jones movie
This is
under
also
the Lucasfilm.
This is also something that
brand
got shuffled along with the Fox thing, and they've kept is the interesting behind the scenes thing. Because apparently Fox had it, and Rick was put on to direct or whatever. So then the project, and what I'm about to say is rumor, of course, but it sounds like.
So don't repeat it.
So don't repeat it. I'll say it anyway. So then, of course, Disney buys Fox, and then Rick at some stage talks to Kathleen Kennedy and says, "Hey,
is it Kathleen or Kathy? Because people keep calling her Kathy, and I don't appreciate it.
I don't appreciate them calling old Kathleen Kathy." I always say Kathleen. I always just say Kathleen Kennedy. I don't know her personally, so it's Kathleen to me. You know what I'm saying?
Don't call her Kathy.
Yeah, she's not my friend, but I wish she was. And apparently he spoke to her and was like, hey, he spoke up about the project and how much he wanted to do it and how much he loved the book and so on and so forth. And then apparently she looked into it, and then she got the project transferred over to Lucasfilm Productions amongst all the shuffling that was happening there. And now he's and Rick's still going to be attached as the director there. And yeah, I just think it's really interesting and pretty big news, because obviously since Lucasfilm was sold to Disney, all they've put out is Star Wars movies, and they've got the Indiana Jones one apparently coming up in the works. And I think the idea of Lucasfilm producing something that isn't either Indiana Jones or fucking Star Wars is interesting. It's based on
think about the history of Lucasfilm, they've got a very short list of franchises or films.
Exactly. So
they've done.
What would you call it? Diversifying their catalogs, portfolio over there, of stuff over there. And I just think that's. I can only look at it as a positive for the studio, really. I don't want them to stop making Star Wars movies and TV shows, and I don't think they're going to, but obviously at the same time, it would be good to see other projects come out. And honestly, this is for all the people who hate Kathleen Kennedy and don't think she should be in charge of Star Wars and all these other sorts of things. Those people too, I think, should be looking at this as potentially good news, because we could actually have a world happen where maybe Lucasfilm fills up its projects a bit more and Kathleen Kennedy stays a bit more hands-on with other projects, and they could actually have someone step in as like a Kevin Feige role for the Star Wars universe or something. You know what I'm saying? So, but at the moment, there's fuck all happening there. It's like, what do you want Kathleen Kennedy to do? They're only making Star Wars movies. She has to be involved. They're doing literally nothing else. So that's what she's doing over there. I looked up the book after I read the story the other day, and it sounded quite interesting, and it won like the best audiobook award for last year or whatever it was on Audible and all these sorts of things. So, interesting.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a Star Wars-esque kind of story.
It sounds like it would fit the studio. Like
it would fit the studio. Yeah. The other one to keep an eye on. It looks like the Emmys are going to be taking a book out of the Oscars playbook this year. They revealed during the recent TCAs that there will be no host for this year's Emmys, hosted by Fox this year. In a statement, he said, "We had a lot of names of the who said this? Head of Fox said we had a lot of names on the board, but the conclusion was reached this year that we're highlighting so many shows going away that it was a better use of time to focus on the shows. There'll be entertainment, there will be an opening number, but if you look at the trade-offs in a show like the Emmys, so often it's a trade-off between the opening acts and using time somewhere else. There will be many surprises. It'll be entertaining." So yeah, there are a number of shows leaving this year. Obviously, Game of Thrones, but also Veep, Empire, and The Big Bang Theory. Also, it's going to be a notable anniversary for shows like Seinfeld and Friends and ER. So whether we get a couple of those people coming back to present or something this year. But do you feel like the host Will structure will work for the Emmys?
I think it worked for the Oscars last year, so
Yeah.
I enjoyed it last
Is
year.
the job of host dead?
Yeah, but this is what I said about the Oscars last year. I'm like, why the fuck do they even need a host? Because the host literally comes out, does that opening act, and then pretty much only pops out 2 or 3 times throughout the rest of the show for a couple jokes here and there, and then fucks off for the rest of it. So unless your host is actually the person coming out and doing a lot more, and the show's like written around the host actually coming out and doing a lot more and whatever else, then yeah, I actually see no reason for there to be a host anymore.
No. Nick, do you care that there's no host this year?
Nope.
Yep. I think it's probably because Fox didn't... As much as Fox want to believe they had a bunch of names on the board, there's no clear-cut choice to represent Fox at the Emmys.
I honestly think they're doing it because it saves them money.
That's true. They don't have to pay for a host. Just have to get a bunch of presenters. They can run a few extra gags.
We used to pay for a host because it would be a name to get people to watch. So,
yeah. But yeah, the last few years they've just been using their late night hosts, and Fox doesn't have a late night show, so what are you going to do? And then the last story I want to touch on, Netflix made a huge deal this past week. They signed the creators of the one of the greatest TV shows of all time, David Benioff and DB Weiss, to a massive $200 million deal, which will see them sort of exclusive deal. A lot of studios have been signing people away. It pretty much just gives them first look at a lot of the projects they'll be developing in the future. Apparently, they beat out competitors like Apple, Warner Media, Disney, Comcast, and Amazon. So yeah,
I'm surprised Disney didn't snatch them up. I don't understand.
Yeah, it's a wonder they didn't have something in the contract.
Yeah, it's quite weird to be like, hey, like they announced that they're doing these Star Wars movies and whatever else, and you kind of, when they announce that, you kind of think that they're going to be over in the Disney house from now on, just involved in all that sorts of stuff, and then Netflix is like, nah, they're over here. So
especially
weird.
when they've shown a history of wrapping up something, rushing something to get to the next thing as well. You'd think they want them solely focused on
one
the
thing.
task that they hired them to do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we don't know
maybe
when their Netflix
maybe
suffers.
that fell through. Maybe they're not doing.
There's
been so much backlash against the last season of Game of Thrones that Disney went like, nah, we don't need none of that.
Yeah, we got enough drama as it is. We don't
we don't need any more backlash.
Yeah, I don't even know what this deal really means. Honestly, it's like, for all we know, they just got paid $200 trillion to fucking just be executive producers on a bunch of shows.
Yeah.
And hire
Which
directors.
honestly, to give them credit, they're good producers. Like they know how to run a show efficiently. Like look at Game of Thrones; it was made pretty well, regardless of the writing at the end. There, like it was still pretty impressively made from a producing standpoint.
Yeah,
we don't know what they're doing, so they might just be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
fucking massive deal though.
Netflix signed Barack Obama and Michelle Obama to a similar sort of contract, so it could just be producing a bunch of different, or is it producing a few different projects?
I just love reading all these Netflix stories every time because it's like Netflix, like constantly running at a loss of like $50 billion or whatever it is, and then they just keep handing out $1 million deals to people. I actually don't think I think Netflix's business model is like, we never want to be in the positives. We'll just sit happily at like this nice kind of.
Well, it works
for
for Amazon is always in the red. They've never turned a profit.
Well, I suppose most companies are always in the red, but I just find it so funny every time you read. Just like, do you want to like maybe go from minus this much to minus this much instead? You know what I mean? Not in the positives, but like get it up.
Give it all away.
Give it up to.
They're the Oprah of the entertainment industry. Yeah. You get a deal. You get a deal.
Yeah.
This article also notes that they had wrote a Kurt Cobain project for Universal, so that's also up in the air, and they were also poised to adapt the Prison Break tale Dirty White Boys for Fox/Disney.
They also had that HBO thing that fell through.
They had the HBO series Confederate.
Yes.
About, I can't remember exactly what it was about, but
it was
there was
about
a lot of outrage
an
about
alternative world where slavery never ended.
Oh, Confederate, yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, so a lot of people, that's probably not going to happen. because that was going to be a HBO thing. So, what a tragedy. Yeah, so that's kind of all the news we've got. So let's just jump into what did we end up watching. Dylan, what did we end up watching?
Banshee.
The new sheriff.
That's right.
I'm Kai Proctor.
There's not a criminal enterprise around here that doesn't start or end in his pockets.
I am this town. I helped build it, and I bled for it. Have you ever loved anything like that?
I'll catch up to you.
How did you find me?
Who were you? For 15 years.
You were the most notorious thief in the country, and you go into the one place you absolutely should not go.
You could have led Rabbit straight to me.
For years, I've been thinking, where is she?
This is not how I saw it playing out.
Leave here and forget about me.
If I don't,
I'll kill you myself.
They're afraid of me, because they should be. And maybe you should be too.
Banshee, the TV show, created by Jonathan Trooper and David Schickler, starring Anthony Starr, Ivana Milovic, Erlich Thompson, Frankie Faison, Hun Lee, and more people. It initially on Cinemax over in the United States, debuting on January 1st, 2013, and airing on Showtime or something over here.
Yeah.
It was on Foxtel.
It was on Foxtel.
Yeah.
The synopsis, I suppose, because it's a TV show, it's hard to like.
Distributed by HBO as well.
Yes.
'Cause I always see the DVDs in the HBO section of
Yeah.
a certain yellow branded retail store.
Which is lazy. It's funny. Like behind the scenes, Nick got this on his YouTube thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I was like, it's missing the opening thing that my Blu-rays have. That's what I noticed.
June
Or something different. Yeah. It doesn't have the
the HBO thing.
Yeah, because I got the Blu-rays, but I was lazy. Because why not? Yeah, the synopsis for the show, I guess, is so the first what do you call it? What the fuck is the first
Pilot.
Pilot, thank you. The pilot introduces you to this character played by Anthony Starr, and he just gets out of prison, and then he goes and asks about the location of someone at Hun Lee's character, Job, and then he heads off to the small town, and then that's where you get introduced to Ivor Milanik's character, Carrie Hopewell, which you soon learn is actually his girlfriend from before he got wrapped up in prison. And then he's like, oh no, she's married now, she's got a kid, what are we going to do? And then he heads off to this bar where he meets what's the actor's name? Frankie Faison, here it is, Sugar, who runs this bar, and then this brand new sheriff who's about to start his job tomorrow called Lucas Hood's in there. And bad luck for all of them, these bad people walk in, they get into a bit of a shootout. The sheriff dies, Lucas Hood dies, and then our hero of the show decides to take up the mantle of the sheriff because no one's actually seen what he looks like yet, and he takes his badge and gets Job to do some hacking and stuff to cover his backtracking details. And then the show is about Lucas Hood, we don't know his real name, Lucas Hood pretending to be sheriff in this town, dealing with the fact that his ex-girlfriend, who he's still in love with, is there, and like figuring out what's going on there because there's stuff there, obviously, untouched history that you have to unravel throughout the season, and then also dealing with a bunch of other characters, including Ulrich Thompson's character Kai Proctor, which is the big gangster overlord or whatever you want to call it of the town. He runs the place, multiple different revenues, drugs, industries. He basically owns the entire town. That's why the sheriff was being brought in the first place, because every other sheriff is just basically brought out, and they the mayor or whatever it is, mayor's office, asked to have a new sheriff brought in from outside so they won't get brought out. And the first season basically deals with all of these crossing over story points, with several points throughout the season constantly kind of flashing back to prior to him being caught and put in prison. And then you also have flashbacks when he's in prison and characters that he meets with and deals with in there. And you get introduced to the backstory of him and his relationship with Carrie, or I can't remember, she's known as something else then, but I can't remember the name. And also their big gangster overlord that they were dealing with at the time called Rabbit, and what they did to double cross and fuck him over. So that's kind of like the synopsis for season 1. Did you use both? We said we'll watch both 2 episodes because I felt like one was
first
kind
2
of...
episodes, the pilot, and the second episode called The Rave.
Yeah, okay. Well, you can do... the reason I picked this originally, it worked out quite nicely because I've been wanting to pick this for a while because I consider this one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I wouldn't consider the first season my favorite season I'll put the first season in the lower half of. In fact, I'll probably put season 1 at the very bottom of ranking Banshee seasons. It does a lot of introducing characters, and it's up down here. The special effects aren't quite as good, and the whatever else. But it's
no, they're not.
No, season 3 I would consider the best of this. Season 2 below that, and 4's hard one to rank because it's like a lot shorter. And I would actually consider the first 3 seasons are the main storyline of Banshee, and season 4 of Banshee is kind of like an epilogue, kind of like wrapping up sorts of things, and it's a lot shorter season, and it was more of like a swan song for fans who have been there to see this story through the first 3 seasons, which I appreciated, but it's like hard to rank considering the type of season is, which is quite weird. But yeah, I absolutely love this show. I love the characters. Rewatching these first 2 episodes again, I was like, fuck, I kind of just want to rewatch this whole show again. I love, especially knowing what comes and where characters end up, where they're going, and these sorts of things. I just think this show's really good. It's like everyone probably has one show they kind of like as their like dirty action sexy show, which is what this is. Like, it's full of sex, it's full of fucking violence, it's full of fight scenes and stuff, and this show has some of the best, if not the best, fight scenes I've seen on television is in this show, especially some of the later scenes. They're fucking absolutely fantastic and brutal as fuck. Some of the stuff in this is actually more brutal than some of the stuff I've seen in Game of Thrones, in fact, or up there on the same sort of level, so that's quite good as well. The characters aren't like they don't have plot armor. Stuff happens. Like it was really well written for the most part, and it's kind of like a pulpy written. Like, you wouldn't say it's not going to win the Academy Award for writing, but it's like told in a pulpy type of fashion, and in that way it kind of really works. But the reason we picked it this week because it worked out really well. Anthony Starr plays Homelander in The Boys, which came out last week, which we all loved. So there's how we all tied this in. Now I can get everyone else's thoughts.
All right. Nick, what did you think of Banshee? And were you, like me, disappointed that it involved any Irish whaling mythical creatures?
No. I had previously watched it on Presto when I had access to that.
Yes.
Yeah. I had to look it up while you were talking about, yeah. I remember watching partway through the first season. I don't know, like, I enjoy it. I agree with everything Dylan said. I think at the time I was just looking for something a bit more higher tier, I guess, because it's certainly pulpy, I want to say, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's certainly not winning any drama awards or anything like that. I agree with Dylan that the fight scenes are really well, which you don't really, you kind of get a taste of in the first 2 episodes, but later on they do get quite intense. I just can't get past, I guess, just not the higher quality that I want from it, in a way, I think.
High quality in what sense?
Like
script or acting?
Yeah,
or
it's just very... I don't know, it's just very, like, campy, not campy, but, like, pulpy and cliche, I guess, like, Andy Starr being, like, the hard man and fucking pinning girls up against and banging every chick in sight, and...
That's the pulpy...
I know what it is. I know that's what it is. I don't know, it's just... I think I have to be in the right mindset to sit down or watch a show like that. Like, coming into it, where it's, I don't know, like, I just have an appetite for, I guess, more serious shows of late. Like, I don't know, I'm not quite being as elaborate as the point I want to try and make. If you can try and...
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. And I know it's not a good excuse, and I'd never say, like, if you have to say to someone, like, it gets better 3 seasons in or something like that. But I would definitely say with this show, it's always pulpy, but at the same time, once you hit, like, season 2 onwards, after you, like, this season kind of sets up characters' relationships and stuff, the storylines between characters from season 2 onwards are actually a lot more serious and they actually have more emotion to them and stuff. Whereas season 1 is a lot more of like setting up who people are and so on and so forth. Season 3 is actually the reason that I set at the highest is because it is the most emotional out of all of the seasons, and that like I remember one episode in particular had me like kind of actually had me crying over a certain character moment. So, but the reason it works is because they spend the time getting to there. If you know what I mean, like you have to have this kind of slow build up. I guess.
I guess I didn't get past the part where all the characters seem like cliched. Like the crime boss is the typical crime boss, and Rabbit is the typical Russian mobster, and Lucas Hood is a typical hard man, and the ex-girlfriend is a typical like independent whatever. Like I think you have to go in knowing what it is and being open to it, and not expecting, at least in the first half, it was as far as I got into it, expecting something transcendent, I guess. Look, I'm not knocking it for what it is, right? I just think my taste for it, I don't know, it's just, I'm not there yet. But one thing that did frustrate the fuck out of me is that there are so many clear points they could have ended an episode, but then it just kept going. Like, yeah, like, going into, I guess, minor spoilers at the end, a part in the second episode where the guy cuts off his finger and feeds him to the dogs.
Yeah.
That's a perfect ending there. But then it just keeps on going.
Well, I don't know if you noticed, but every episode in season 1 also has an after credit scene.
Oh, does it? I never got that far.
Yeah.
Why?
Because they always just tease stuff that's happening, and also they were doing at the time they were doing these mini like webisode stuff.
Yeah,
like
Banshee Origin
stuff was happening, but also like I don't. It doesn't interest me now, but obviously when I was watching this as it was airing, after every episode I was staying for the after credits, and it's only like 2 seconds, 3 seconds teasing something, but I'd be like, oh, like what's gonna, So it works at the time week by week because this show isn't a Netflix show. It wasn't dumped. I was like. That's what I'm saying. I miss shows week by week sometimes, being like, "Oh, what's going to happen? Oh, what's going to happen?" So,
no, I don't like that. I don't. I even hate it in anime where there's like at the end of the credits they have like a new scene that's somehow related to the next episode. That ends up being very important. Ridiculous.
It was never
put
important.
it at the beginning of the episode.
No, none of the after credit stuff. None of the after credit stuff in this was important at all. It was all just like teasers for what was to come next week.
So it's just a trailer.
Yeah, but they never had trailers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're saying, Nick?
I think if I had come to it when it was contemporary, I would have been more into it because I guess, not to sound wanky, I guess, but my taste hadn't matured or evolved at that point where it would have come at the right point in my time where I was into that pulpiness and full-on action and the sexy and all that kind of stuff.
No, that's fine. What you're saying is since doing this show that we've helped evolve your tastes. A great selection of what do we end up watching products.
It's so funny because you're complaining like, oh, the sex scenes and the pulpy stuff and whatever else. And it sounds like something I would usually be against.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, did you watched it when it was contemporary and what?
I watched it when
2013.
I watched it when it was airing. What do we know? So
6 years ago.
Yeah. What am I? So I would have been like 21, 22-ish. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was a lot younger. Also, the reason
Ashley would have been about 35.
Yeah. The reason I watched it in the first place was because, what is his name? It's one of the producers.
Alan Ball.
Alan Ball, thank you. The reason I watched it in the first place
I had forgotten about that and I was quite shocked.
Yeah, so Alan Ball was one of the original people attached as producers. I remember I fell off True Blood, but I remember liking True Blood and whatever else. Yeah. And I heard about this
6 Feet Under.
Yeah, 6 Feet Under as well. And I heard about this show through the Alan Ball thing, and that's the reason I checked it out even in the first place, was because I remember hearing he was attached to be involved with it. I never knew what the fuck Cinemax was. In fact, this was like Cinemax's first or second show, so.
Yeah. I think they did recently that
Clive
Owen one.
The
one where he's a surgeon.
another way. I was going to say, they put out a show this year, which I'm trying to track down how to watch because I only found out about it like a month ago and it was like halfway through the season. I'm like, I'll wait until it's finished. But they put out a show this season that's done by one of the same guys that did Banshee, and it's the only thing he's done finally after this. I'm like, right. But it's set like in 1800s, like somewhere in Asia or whatever. Like it's a true story type thing as well. And I'm like,
Warrior.
Warrior. I read a quick review where they're like, if you're a fan of Banshee,
that's with Hun Lee in it. Yeah.
They're like, if you're a fan of Banshee, this has better acting and better writing, but just as good fight scenes. I'm like, oh, fucking tickle me intrigued. Like, anyway, Ash, you haven't said shit about this.
Yeah, Ashley, what did you think about it?
This is the first time I watched Banshee. Again, I'd seen it like in stores and stuff and never got around to seeing it. I enjoyed it overall. I think it's pretty solid. If we weren't in the time that we are at the moment, where there's so much good stuff to watch, I might watch more. I might even watch more. Who knows? I might end up watching the rest of this.
Let's do a spin-off podcast. I'll rewatch the whole season. I mean, the whole show.
You just want to watch the whole season.
Well, I'll be honest. I wanted to keep watching it, but without a reason to justify it.
It's difficult.
I think the only reason I didn't keep watching is because I had so many other shows on the go.
Yeah, there's so many on at the moment.
Yeah.
That, I'll happily pause it.
Admittedly, 38 episodes is not that much.
No, it's not many, and that's the other good thing. That's what I'm saying. The best thing about
sorry to interrupt. They are a full hour episode, just about.
Yeah,
but
they're not like the 40-minute hour episode.
But that's what I'm saying. The other good thing about the show is the fact that they wrapped on their own terms.
Yeah,
it has a start and it has a finish. Like they weren't forced to close on that fourth season. That's the way they wanted to go about it. And I remember at the time people being questionable, like because it was a shorter season, and being like, "Did you just get told you have less episodes and stuff?" And they were like, "No, this is just the way we want to tell the story, and this is how it's going to go." So yeah.
To deal with it.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you hate this, Ash, I'd be like, you watch fucking so much shit. Don't you fucking dare to tell me
too many horror elements.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Like Nick said, there's a lot of cliche stuff, and I feel like it definitely has that softcore porn element to it, which is a bit off-putting. I mean, I don't need a sex scene every 15 minutes.
Well, guess what?
Speak for yourself, Ashley.
I'm pretty sure there is a sex scene nearly every episode.
Yeah. I mean, I will admit that it's an interesting new place that I don't think I've seen before with all the Amish people throughout the season. I don't think I'd seen much content with Amish people other than like making fun of them or like.
Well, that's it's a big part of the show because what's his face? Oh fuck, I'm blanking his name. The gangster dude.
Kai Proctor.
Kai Proctor. Yeah, Kai was born in the Amish place, and part of his story, not big spoilers, but part of his story is that at some stage he leaves there and his family's still there, and you get hints of that within the first episode, I think, where he steps in and protects some of his men, kind of picking on the Amish people and stuff, and the Amish people always play an important role throughout all the seasons, that because Kai's obviously involved and other things. And what you were saying before about the whole cliche Russian dude as well, the Russian dude's only involved for like the first season and a half-ish, I think, is kind of what it works out to be. And the third season, then onwards, pretty much towards the end of the show, the villains actually all come from Banshee. Like one of the main villains actually is a Native American dude in there, and that's when it gets really. So it's like you get introduced to all these different elements, and they actually introduce like basically a Ku Klux Klan living in Banshee and stuff. So it's like you got these people living out here and these people and all these other stuff happening. Yeah, so it's an interesting setting though with that Amish stuff.
Yeah. So I think that just about does it. Do you want to make any last pitch to get people to watch Banshee?
I would be willing to say, if people are like, this show's terrible, if you both were like, this show's terrible, I'd be willing to at least be like, well, I watched it at a time and maybe I just have a soft spot for it because I was watching it as it was airing. As I've kind of said, I think off air and on air a couple times, one of the reasons I do think I have a soft spot for this show is because it's one of only a couple of shows I've ever watched start to finish, episode 1 air date to episode, like the final episode as it aired. And I remember when the last episode aired and I finished watching it, literally I was just like, I had this really weird feeling because most of the times, I'm saying it's so weird when you think about shows you watch. Most of the time, shows you watch, they're either like after they've already aired, or maybe you catch up and they're 3 seasons in and you haven't been there since day one, so it's not exactly the same. Or Netflix these days, you're just binging everything. But this is, one show that I had like such a several years span of history with, and so many great moments, so many episodes with character deaths and like amazing fights and stuff that just stand out to me when I YouTube these fights sometimes to be like, fuck, that's cool. Like that, it's just this show to me. It's that's what I'm saying. I get everything you're saying, cliched, but that's why I do call it pulpy. And at the same time, I'm like, I don't need the sex scenes, but that's kind of what it's got sex scenes. It's a sexy show. It's one of the only shows. I remember a bit of trivia they had at the time was like they had an on-set like physical workout routine for old actors, which is something they don't usually do on shows. Apparently they had like a set up a place because they're like, you all need to look good 24/7 or whatever. And I remember by the time of the last season,
I'm pretty sure that's the same thing they had on True Blood, from what I believe.
Maybe so. Well, Alan Ball.
Maybe Alan Ball's got a kink for watching people work out.
Maybe he does.
Yeah.
I remember also Anthony Starr, like by the time the last season came around, he specifically asked for less fight scenes because he injured himself so many times throughout the 3 seasons, trying to do all these fight scenes.
That's why
and
he
stuff.
plays Superman now.
Yeah, well, basically, yeah. The show, it's a big sexy action fucking fight thing, but I get attached to the characters and things happen to them later in the show that I'm actually attached to them. Like, I don't know.
I think for the type of show that it is top tier for that type of show.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's, like...
No, it's fine. It fills a niche and people enjoy it and it's good. Like, it's... From what I'm saying, it's not a bad show. Like, don't take away that I think it's bad. It's just... Yeah, it's a good show. Watch it.
I'll just say, it's like it encompasses kind of a cool show to me. It's just one of those... It's like, it's a cool show. If you want to call it that.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode of What Do You Want to Watch? Nick, where can people find you on the internets?
On Trakt at Lord and Pryor.
Cool. Dylan?
All the things at Vivaladil, Vivaladil. Feel free to tweet me, fellow Banshee fans. We shall rise up.
Okay.
But not actual Banshees.
Right, we'll rise up and... Because I never meet anyone. I always be like, this is one of my favorite shows. I never meet anyone that actually likes this show.
You like Banshee.
What does that tell you?
That's because there's so much sex, people feel awkward about.
Look, just be comfortable with your sexuality.
Well, one thing I want to make a note of is it does have quite a high Rotten Tomatoes rating.
It was always reviewed well.
Or something.
That Rotten Tomatoes doesn't matter. You can follow me on Twitter at Ashley Hobley, ASHLEYHOBLEY. You can follow the Explosion Network on Twitter at ExplosionPod, or you can go over to youtube.com/Explosion Network to check out all our review discussions, which we will be doing for Hobbs and Shaw. That's the name of that movie. Or go to explosionnetwork.com where you can find Dylan's review, as well as other reviews, and other podcasts, and other awesome stuff. If you want to send us feedback or anything you want us to watch, email us at mail@explosionnetwork.com. And if you want to help us out, leave us a review either on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser, or just tweet something nice out, or tell somebody about the show and how Banshee is not about Irish mythical creatures that scream and squeal.
But you don't know, you haven't watched it all.
I mean,
it's true.
That would be a shocking twist if it's actually about banshees. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening. And until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.
Every trophy counts. Don't be told otherwise. Join myself and Ash each Tuesday when a shiny new episode of Platinum Explosion dings into podcast feeds. The #1 PlayStation podcast in the Oceanias breaks down all the latest in PlayStation related news, releases, trophy lists, and much, much more. Just search your podcast app for Platinum Explosion and subscribe for free now. Average Rotten Tomatoes score of 89%. Season 1, 64%. Season 2, 93%. Season 3, 100%. And Season 4, 100%. You know what they call that?
How many reviews are those?
Step up. Step up, son. Step up.
60 reviews for the first season, 3 reviews for the second season, 1 review for Season 3.
Fuck you. Get out of here on your arrow watching high horse. I'm being honest though. Like when I watched those first 2 episodes, I just wanted to keep watching. I'm like, this is good shit. I'm not playing it as a character bit. This is good shit.